Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic manner. Today, we are reviewing some really nerve-wracking fasting news on one of the most common protocols followed by us humans out in the wild. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, Kev, what could be so nerve-wracking? And I will say it's not because my whole production team follows the protocol, and we know their track record. It's simply so nerve-wracking because we're looking into some new data on how a 16-8 time-restricted feeding protocol affects our nervous system state and our consciousness with said state. So you get it? Nerve-wracking, nervous system, huh? Or am I just getting on your nerves? Damn it, production team. You guys promised that joke would kill. Just make sure you cut it out, all right? So in the next 11 minutes and 97 seconds, we're gonna dive into why your nervous system state is so important, how we can actually measure its activity, the new data on how a 16-8 protocol impacts it, why this is all relevant, and some ways you can apply this to your life. Cool? First, your nervous system. When it comes down to classification, we have two main autonomic nervous system states. And if you weren't already aware, the autonomic nervous system is the branch that regulates most of our unconscious involuntary bodily functions. Think breathing, think heart rate, think digestion. And these two states of the autonomic nervous system are so elegantly called fight or flight and rest and digest. And in case these two descriptions don't speak for themselves, let's break them down. Fight or flight, or the activation of what is called the sympathetic nervous system, is essentially where our body is in a state of preparing for imminent doom. Like fighting a saber-toothed tiger, going fisticuffs with an opposing tribe, or getting that passive-aggressive email from Todd in accounting. While rest and digest, otherwise known as the parasympathetic nervous system, represents a state where your body is literally on an internal beach. Feet up, enjoying a cool snack and a drink with zero worries in sight. Which state would you rather be in? Better question yet, which state do you think you spend more time in? And while you're thinking about that, let me shed some light on our modern day conundrum. And it all starts with this 5-pound mushy membrane, and it being quite powerful. How powerful, you ask? Well, a mere thought alone has shown the power to propagate down through the figurative layers of the brain and alter our nervous system state in a matter of seconds. Upregulating the secretion of stress hormones, constricting blood vessels, increasing your heart rate, breathing, and driving you down a one-way sympathetic fight or flight nervous system highway. Yikes. Good thing this doesn't happen often. I mean, right? What? It does happen? Damn it. How? Well, over the last few thousand years, the threat landscape has shifted drastically from one primarily comprised of acute physical stressors to one that is highly psychological, one which is turned on way too often. Welcome to modern day society, where you're generally safe from pretty much everything except the thoughts in your head.
I am dead inside.
And when this is chronic, affecting and impacting you on a consistent basis, which it almost always is, it is bad for biological business, accelerating disease and impairing a lot of our biological systems from operating efficiently. Oh my God, this is stressing me out. Oh no. But don't you get nervous just yet. We've got videos ready to help you wage your chilled out, good vibe war on chronic stress and how to build the habits to overcome them. So check out the links above and show notes below for some deep dives. Moral of the story though, we want more parasympathetic and less sympathetic. Yes, be less sympathetic. And don't ask me why science has to come up with such confusing, hypocritical names. It just don't make sense. So now that we've got all that down, how the hell do we measure it? Measuring your nervous system. When assessing your current nervous system state, there are a few objective and subjective ways of going about it. First, subjectively, you can base it off something called interoception, or the practice of observing the current internal state of your body. This includes things such as heart rate, breathing, body temperature, and mental clarity, and is assessed by how you currently feel without using any tools. Now, if you have tools handy, like a health wearable or tracker, two powerful metrics to track are heart rate and heart rate variability. Why? Because these are a direct assay of your nervous system state. Heart rate variability is the disparity between your heartbeats, or the time, typically measured in milliseconds, between each heartbeat. The higher your heart rate variability is from baseline, the more relaxed you are, while the opposite indicates that your body is working harder than it normally does. As always, context matters, because this could be due to something good, like exercise, or something not so good, like chronic stress. And you gotta remember that this is a very individualized and personalized number, varying from person to person. So the best way to measure this is to base it off relative change from your baseline. Next, we have resting heart rate. This is how many beats your heart performs per minute at rest. And it's a great way to measure if you are stressed out internally. The average adult typically falls somewhere between 60 to 80 beats per minute at rest, but this can easily drop down into the 40s depending on someone's fitness level. This, yet again, is another one that you want to measure against your baseline. Remember, you versus you against yourself. And some common consumer devices that give you these data points include the Oura Ring, Fitbit, Garmin watch, and Whoop band. So with all that, let's take a look at this new data displaying how a 16-8 time-restricted feeding protocol, where one breaks their 24-hour feeding fasting window into 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours of feeding, impacts our nervous system state. The study. Researchers conducted 2 consecutive and independent studies to assess how 16 hours of short-term fasting impacted participants' autonomic nervous system state, along with one's interoceptive accuracy, or their ability to accurately gauge their current internal state off feel alone. They did this by separating healthy participants into a control and intervention group. The controls ate normally with 0 limitations, while the intervention group was required to fast 16 hours prior to the evaluation. What evaluation, you ask? Well, along with direct measurements from an electrocardiogram, which provided the heart rate and heart rate variability information, researchers assessed introspective accuracy with 2 different tests: the heartbeat discrimination task and the heartbeat tracking task. So what'd they find? 3 main things. First, 16 hours of fasting seemed to improve the ability of participants to adequately monitor internal body processes, specifically cardiac activity, suggesting that they were more in tune with their nervous system state. Second, fasting was associated with an increase in vagal-mediated heart rate variability compared to the controls who followed no fasting protocol. AKA, there was an increase in rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system activity for the fasting group. And third, they found that the heart rate variability increase was associated with an increase in introspective accuracy, indicating that increases in heart rate variability facilitate the accuracy in which internal bodily signals are perceived. Interesting. All in all, they found that short-term fasting of 16 hours was well suited to alter the autonomic regulation of the heart, reducing heart rate and increasing heart rate variability, which suggests that it is positively correlated with parasympathetic rest and digest activation. And as you recall from before, good for biological business. Now, a key call out here is the fact that there seems to be a cutoff point where an intermittent fasting protocol stops bringing the nervous system benefits, as longer fasts have been associated with sympathetic nervous system activation. And this is hypothesized to be an evolutionary survival response, upregulating sympathetic nervous system activity to give the organism more attention and energy to hunt and forage longer. And from previous research, it seems that 48 hours may be the key delineation point. Which kind of makes sense because when I think back to my N of 1 alternate day fasting experiment, which you can see here, I experienced my best heart rate and heart rate variability metrics during my fasting days and nights, about 36 hours or so into the fast. And from the look of the chart, I'd be surprised if you could guess which days were fasting and which days were feeding. Hard to tell. So what does this all mean and what can you do? Well, this just adds to the list of benefits that structured meal timing has on our pretty cool meat suits and its biological function. A list, might I add, that is chock full of non-weight loss, cellular metabolic, and now nervous system coolness, all of which you can find deep dives on the fully equipped Fasting 101 playlist here. So if we're talking in terms of action items here, taking the first step to gauge your baseline is always a good place to start. Start using any objective tools that you have, like a wearable that gives you sleep and heart rate data. You can also implement introspective exercises like sitting still and trying to count your heartbeat without any fingers on the pulse, and then measure that against your actual pulse. And once you have your baseline set, slowly experiment with incorporating some structure into your energy consumption, which we provide a full breakdown on in this guide right here. One practical place to start that has typically shown to make a big difference is sustainably shifting your last meal of the day to roughly 3 hours before bedtime in an effort to optimize one of the top longevity tools and nervous system regulators we have. Sleep, by the way, have the full How to Sleep playlist as well, if you want some help there too. Just saying. We, as a society, have a pretty bad habit of neglecting many health interventions that are $3.99. And it oh so happens to be the ones that don't cost a dime are the ones that yield the most dramatic health improvements. You just gotta be willing to do the work. So enough being all nervous, stop being sympathetic all the time and put yourself first. Breathe, rest, digest, and repeat. Did I just come up with the new hit of the summer? Production team, cut that last part and copyright that phrase. We'll sell it to the highest bidding DJ. Are you guys still recording? Hey.